Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to LinkedIn Live Hospitality. Come and look who I've got next to me, Mr. John Benson-Smith. How the devil are you, sir?
I'm good,
Are you
Nigel.
well?
Good to see you. And everybody else.
Good to see you. Cheers, mate. So, what's the show all about today? Let me just basically talk you through. So, basically on the show today, I was just saying we've got John Benson-Smith next to me. So, another week over. Gosh, that soon went, didn't it? So those are the people that basically have come onto the feed, seen two blokes sitting next to us. It's basically what's it all about. We're actually on LinkedIn Live and basically going live out there, and also on the podcast with Last Man Standing. Basically, guys, actually on the show, we actually basically crave attention. You know that, yeah? So come onto the show, say hello, but also basically, come and say exactly what we're going to do. So, please come on, basically say hello, Last Man Standing, and basically Recovery Live. All I want to do, basically, guys, is basically add your attention and basically add your location. We also basically got questions that we want to give to John Benson-Smith as well. So if you've got any questions, those basically put Q before it and put those into the comments. Sweary show, basically, just take that off. So, but sweary show, basically, it's not a particularly sweary show, but if you have got kids, basically, put those earbuds in, basically, take the iPad into another room. It is a live show with basically no buttons to basically put them out. So there you go. Why the show? Why hospitality recovery? Well, people said to me, Nigel, do this show, come and talk about it. Basically, come and talk about hospitality recovery. And, it's to raise awareness. It's to get that communication, back out into the industry and basically, mitigate the risk, but all importantly, create those all important jobs. So who's it for? It's for hospitality, it's for food service, pubs, restaurants, stadia, events, anybody who aims into the hospitality industry, and also people that basically want to see hospitality industry actually recover. Who watches the show? Basically, it's owners, it's CEOs, it's managers, it's basically operations, front and back of house. So I guess basically, what is the issue? What is the issue with hospitality? So I guess basically, guys, we've had a bloody awful year. Let's face it. COVID's kicked in. It's decimated our industry, and quite clear, we're still, as it stands at the moment, where are we now? So 17th of November, we're still in lockdown and come out of lockdown on the 3rd of December. Whatever that looks like. I mean, we don't really know what that looks like, to be quite honest, but, we've gone through curfew and 4 changes and tiers and all that, And, guys, people don't like me talking about this, talk lots of people out the industry, and some of the hotels will disappear, some of them just won't open, some of our restaurants won't open. That's very sad, for me, it's seeing my feet, it's basically all those job losses, it's basically seeing, those 3.2 million, less employment, we don't know what the global economy is going to do, pretty gloomy. We're best part of what? 130 billion pounds, 5% worth of our GDP. The B word's around the corner for Brexit, and we don't know what that's going to look like yet. And, how do we basically replace that 24 billion pounds worth of visitor spend, 40 billion pounds worth of tax receipts, and 10 billion pounds worth of investment? So, quite a big industry, all the way through. But how do we feel? As I said, I speak to lots of people, myself, unemployed, basically, come out of the industry after 11 years, 35 years in the industry, but, stress, anxiety, fear, and basically it's the unknown. How do you manage a business that quite clearly we don't even know what the rules are going to be? So, but some great, saying that, there's some great, I heard this word bandied around with optimism, somebody just mentioned optimism, and basically, I guess basically we've got the furlough until March 21st, and, we talk about basically action, plan and change, and it's for the what's and the where's. So basically what the show's all about is about, looking at basically what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, what are the issues, what are the actual, what are the pain points, but more importantly, how do we get it back to hospitality recovery? Yeah, so that's what the show's all about. So let me introduce my guests. Yeah, my co-host, Mr. John Benson-Smith. How the devil are you, sir?
I'm good, Nigel. Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you, pal. Yeah, it's great news today, mate. Well done. I mean, you put that on your feed today, so I've got to say we're talking about just before we come on here. So, congratulations, sir. Yeah,
Thank you.
All credit to you. Yeah. Right, so Mr. Benson-Smith, for those people that haven't heard about you, where have you been? We know you from Chef Scene, we know you from MasterChef, and Lloyd Grossman and all that sort of NHS, Marco, and all that. Yeah, talk me through it. John Benson-Smith, who is he?
Okay, right. A Yorkshireman that's been masquerading as a Mancunian. No, 45 years in the industry, and that's a genuine 45 years. Done all sorts of stuff really within food service and hotels and restaurants and stadia, and recently within retail and supermarket, which has been very exciting. Events. I mean, trains, planes, automobiles, arts, culture. Done quite a lot. People say, "Wow, that's impossible." I said, "Well, listen, I ain't 21 anymore, but my brain's probably 21." But so yeah, good, great industry. Difficult times. We've all said the same thing. It's unprecedented, but one's got to look to the future and grab every opportunity and grab the future and attack.
Please don't swear, John. You know what I'm going to say to you. Please do not swear. You promised me there's a sweepstake. Please don't swear.
Thank you.
Please no effing and Jeffing on this show. It's a family show, sir. Yeah. Let's just have a quick look. So basically, let's just have a quick skim through. Sue's on. Yeah. Simon's on. Simon Parsons. Let me just have a quick look through these. Yeah, I'm trying to be my screen. Andrew Beckett's on. Andrew basically is our tyres man. Guys on. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, guys. Yeah. Nigel, John. Looking forward to this, yeah. So am I, yeah. Dawn, yeah. I'm looking forward to John Benson-Smith and see what he's got to say. LinkedIn user, you need to go back up to the top and basically click onto the feed. That's why you haven't got it there. Julia Lively said she's from Market Harbour, all the way through. So, guys, another LinkedIn user. Thought I'd check this and basically out and know the people in this industry. So, yeah, congrats to all the work you're doing these days, Nigel. Thank you, Richard. You get me basically talking about the industry. I never stop. We could be here till 10 o'clock. So, all the way through. Midlands, Simon, and all the way through. Guys, if you've got a question on the bottom there, who was that? Sorry. Yeah. Mark Daniels. Mark, basically, hi from Solomon, Cambridge. Mark just about to start his own podcast, which is good. So welcome, Mark. Manchester. That's your neck of the woods, isn't it, John? Yeah, from your old days, Mr. Manchester. We'll talk about that in a minute. Hello from Cheltenham, and basically all the way through. Oh, Spain. Gosh, Jesus Christ. In Spain, hospitality is suffering the strongest crisis in history. Very interested to learn and share ideas, experience to face recovery. Very good job, Nigel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you for the people that basically talk through. Right, Mr. Benson-Smith. Yeah, we've seen you basically, on MasterChef. How did that come about? Just talk me through. Let's get the worst ones out of the way. What happened to MasterChef?
I was a very good-looking, handsome young man in those days. No,
mate,
back in the day, I was seen as Manchester's most successful chef. And in those days, Manchester was very different to what it is now. And I was probably one of the, I'm not going to say the first, because food's been served in cities and towns for generations, but I got stuck into Manchester when it was difficult parts. That was the Victorian Albert, which was owned by Granta Television. And then from that, I appeared as a judge on BBC MasterChef, and then I was one of the tops. I was not the top chefs, but I was one of 6 chefs that got invited by Lloyd and the Prime Minister to get involved with a look at better hospital food, and then got involved with food on first class GNER trains. Wow. And then I became the original flavor designer to Walker's Sensation Crisps. And then became the consultant chef for 20 years. What, 20 years, Nigel? What's that about? The Etihad for Manchester City Football Club, and worked for FC Bayern and then Watford and Tottenham and Crystal Palace, and I can go on for hours. But who cares? It's not about me. It's about us all pulling together and looking at how we can make things better and improve it.
Yeah, basically, we could do a whole show, couldn't we, about John Benson-Smith, about bloody sexy fish and, Three Bears. Yeah, they're all on YouTube, mate. You know what I mean? So, if you want to go and bore yourself to death with a love you sits on the sofa, yeah, go and see John Benson-Smith. Three Bears. What's all that about? Sexy fish. What's all that about? So quite clearly, but good stuff. I mean, it's not about you, John. So, John, I'm going to embarrass you now. During lockdown, you sort of rung me up and said, "Nigel, give me a call, you muppet. What are you doing?" And sort of put me on the right track and said, "Nigel, just behave yourself, you muppet. What you're doing on LinkedIn, get your brand right, get your bloody head together, you muppet." And quite clearly, gave me a few sort of expletive words, a few words of wisdom, yeah. And basically, Nigel, come on, bloody get yourself sorted. You know what, pal? I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Basically, I could pick up the phone to you and just go, "John, I was in a bad place, and I was sitting on my deck and having a beer, and it's just great." So he's laughing because he knows what he said to me, but quite clearly, thanks for that. Appreciate that, babe. I know, Ali and God knows what. Ali, first of all, basically told us off in the week, didn't she, mate, for the spelling mistake that I put out. So thank you, Mrs. Benson-Smith. Thank you. Yeah, we are not worthy. Thank you very much. So let's get back to what we're going to talk about, yeah, because I don't want to talk about John Benson-Smith. I want to talk about what he feels about the industry, yeah. So we talk regularly about quite clearly what's going wrong in the industry and what we need to put right, yeah. So talk me through that, John. Talk me through basically the industry. Talk me through your feel.
I kind of threw some thoughts down in a very structured manner. Otherwise, it will be a bit like Ken Dodd. Someone will have to turn the lights out at night time at 10 to 12. So I kind of threw down 20 sort of points. Okay. And the way I look at it, Nigel, is if you throw enough stuff at the wall, some of it's probably going to stick. So I'll if I can borrow 10 minutes or half an hour or whatever it is, just to kind of whiz through my kind of points. So feels to me like it's the time to rethink, to review, to recreate, to re-engage, to realign. It's the time to redevelop, to reinvent, to restart, to re-strategize and reconsider and anything else. As the future becomes clearer, we're probably going to see within our industry that it becomes a mix of food service, restaurateur, retail, vendor, ready meal producer, food service, meal kit maker, where the customer can sit in, collect, receive at work or via home delivery, or actually get a service at a venue. And it may be a product that's to go, or it's a drive-through or whatever. My point being that I think the days of the traditional kind of tables and chairs, the service hot plate and the chef stood there, or leaning there or looking at his phone or seeing if Man United won again or whatever it is, are probably over. So to me, I see the future as becoming a versatile, flexible, multi-purpose food makers and food providers. Does that kind of make sense? So if you create a great product, you can sell it through a window, in a car, in a box, off a shelf, or to the home. We've got to rethink. We've got two choices, haven't we? We either rethink and adapt, and we're smart and clever, or the future's probably going to be even tough than what tougher already is. So I suggest that we probably question absolutely everything within the business that we work in. And that's about looking at menus and menu costs. That's about our loyalty programs. It's about the software, our subscriptions, our operating policies, the dreaded 2-for-1 vouchers. It's question everything. And I think it's all about why do we do it that way, or why have we always done it that way? I think that's first point. Second point is, I think there's a big difference between management and leadership. And it feels to me now it's all about big leadership. This is about an explorer in business. I don't mean, I've got a rucksack on and I've got my shorts on. Someone that's the mentor, someone that's a futurist, someone that can translate. This morning I got a whole wad of stuff where I said to Alison, what the hell does that mean? Give it me in 3 words. So someone that can understand and translate the situation we're all in, someone who's got personality, someone who's got wisdom, someone who's got experience, someone that's got principles, and someone that makes stuff happen. I think that's really, really important. But also someone that's got a little bit of niceness or pretending to be nice, but someone that's going to make things happen. I think just sitting back, to me, feels very, very dangerous. So leadership, and probably, Nigel, people with a few grey hairs probably count more now than what they used to. So it's about sheep or wolf. Which are you? I see some nice big fire-breathing wolves that are now at it with regards ideas and structure and plans, and we're going to rethink that and review. I also, for right or for wrong, see a whole lot of people that are the sheep. They're sitting and they're waiting. Now, you've got to, going back to the leadership thing, it's about that get up and go. This is a marathon. It's no longer the fairy tale sprint, which is what it was. So that's really important. I'm a real believer in creating and designing and selling great products. So I think that the customer now has had a bit of a rethink. I think the customer now wants a value more than ever. So creating and designing products is really important. I think if you serve substandard products, or I think there's a word beginning with C, R, A, and then I think a P, you're going to get found out. That's really important, design great products. Competitors, instead of resenting the competitors, if you're smart, you're going to get closer to them, become fanatical about them. You're going to want to know them more, and you're going to work them out, and you're going to learn from them. Well, I always say, I want to know who my competitor's dentist is. That sounds bizarre, but it's about getting under the skin of how and why are they in business, and how and why are they successful, but not just basically saying, so many people say to me, oh, competitors are crap, they're rubbish. Have you been? No, you've got to get closer to the market. Redesigning your services, looking at your production methods, looking at the spaces, looking at your layouts, looking at your ergonomics, and essentially revising your time and motion of how you operate. That's really important. Next point, digital actions, entertainment, communication, IT. I mean, wow. I see so many boxes with wires on and computers and screens and all that stuff. But no matter what you're producing, you need to be able to read and understand the collated information and use that to take action. Otherwise, turn it all off. Get rid of the subscriptions, unplug it all, but actually do something with what you've learned. And you need to be like a detective, forensically understanding the sales and the spends and the whole thing. You've got, as a leader, to understand where one's at. Reset hard, like never before. Get the blank piece of paper and create the new rules to your business, and probably write them down, then pass them to all the shareholders and the directors to sign off to say, this is actually how we're going to manage our business. My next point is the customer is now the boss more than ever. I think searching and selection of your staff is more important. Staff need to be clearly profiled, and the staff need to understand the expectations of the business. That's really important, that you've got a team, you've got a gang, and that everybody's on the same page. Train, practice, role play, influence, mentor, check, train. That's really, really important. And I talk to a lot of customers or previous customers who say to me, typically, hey, we haven't been to restaurants, apart from the Chancellor's voucher thing for ages. And you know what? We don't really miss it. And a few of them have said to me, we look back at when we used to spend 95 quid for dinner for two, and we've now worked out that we can eat decently, or their perception of decent, for 5 days a week, 3 meals. So in some ways, we've got to be a bit careful with that whole thing. Wisdom, I mentioned before, experience and knowledge is now paramount. That's really, really important, I think. Be brilliant. Your customers will give you one chance and one chance only. Professional service and great food is paramount. And the paying public, they'll demand, I reckon, more than what, before. I don't know what more means. Is it more vouchers? I hope not. But probably their expectation of professionalism, the smile, the teeth, the welcome, the detail, the product knowledge, and the whole thing. Is what you're serving on the plate better than what you can buy from a shop? If it's the same, then you've kind of got a problem. Know your numbers. We used to know our numbers yearly. We then got into quarterly. Someone then came up with monthly. Some of us have been doing it weekly. I see the need now to begin to do your numbers and figures every single day. Look at the impacts, the implications, There's little romance in the numbers, and I think that's really important now that we really get and understand where we're up to, where we're tracking, etc. The money's moved. My point being that the restaurant industry has shrunk shockingly, but people are still eating. They're just eating in different places. So we've got to retrain those customers. Does that make sense, Nigel? The money's moved. We're still eating. It's gone there and it was here. So we're going to retrain that, if that kind of makes sense. Safety, pretty obvious, but the welfare of our team players and our colleagues and the security of them and our customers, is absolutely important. Designing the space, working the space, considering your space and being smarter with your space to do with social distancing is really, really important, I think, more than ever. Fast food, embrace it. It's not about being cheapy and nasty and cheap. People want fast food. And I think there's opportunities of extending your brand to have if you've got a good product and a good brand, to actually morph it into different ways of selling and serving whatever you are. Trends. Read the market, understand trends. There's some great publications that come out, trend watching, etc. Now, we're probably not too bothered about, is Mexican food more important to us than, stuff that happens in Cornwall, but actually our customers are. So understanding the trends, because the staying in isn't going to go away. If you look at the sales of caravans and outdoor furniture and barbecues and dining tables, and it is on the up. So we've got to, we've got to reconsider stuff. PR, marketing and sales, don't shut it down. Become famous, but become genuinely famous. Look at your points of difference and make sure that your tone and your noise, be it on social media or your website or it's an e-shot or talking, is as a concerted brand. That kind of makes sense. Yep. Shed the emotion and the financial debt, the possible bloat, which we've all been guilty of over the last number of years. We've had this massive rollout of one restaurant, 6, 10, 20, 50. We need to be really careful of. I think it's better to do one well than 10 poorly. That's, it's about your numbers. Banish boredom. Same old experience and transactional trudge and what's the soup of the day. Please, come on. This is the time to have the creative thinking. Yes. I'll have to go back and ask chef. I don't know what the soup is. Is it broccoli? He's putting Stilton in it. Oh, please. So listen to your customers. Actually use focus groups, which is a posh word for getting people to talk to you and actually understand what their views are and how it's changed. Don't guess. Speak to people. Become fanatical or further fanatical about your trade, the industry, your customers, and, as a leader, your underlings expect you to have that village. It's that village. The vision. Why am I saying village, Nigel? Okay. So, really important thing. It's about having fun. It's about laughing, smiling, be human, enjoy life, have respect, and be creative. Somebody yesterday sent me a note and said, JBS, do you remember when we got 3 Scalextric tracks and we joined them all together in Manchester? And after service, I think one night we took 25k on sales, which was a record. We joined 3 Scalextric tracks together and put it around the centre island. And we had some beers at midnight and all the chefs were all playing Scalextric till 2 o'clock in the morning. Those same chefs still talk about those cars with the batteries that we used to whiz around the kitchen. So I think that whole thing is about creating memories within the industry. So know your stuff. Certainly it's time for vision and be clear in your direction, but I would say it's about planning the plan. Those are my thoughts, Nigel.
Okay, John, thanks for that. And you just made my job, thank you very much, easy. What you've done there, 20 minutes, yeah, and those 20 plans, we've gone through them before, and I know how passionate you are in the industry. You're passionate I am. That basically, it's all about the big shift, isn't it? The business change. I think what's happened is people have brought it forward. It's always been there, let's face it. We talked about earlier, the home market's always been there, but some of it's actually been quite shoddy and basically brought forward. Let's just get to some of the comments that basically are coming through, some good comments that basically coming out. Let's just pick some up. Let's just basically point them through. So Roger asks basically, I agree with the comments and ideas about flexibility within the industry, diversity of selling and promoting the product to be able to rethink outside the box. Yep. What's your thoughts on that, John?
Good. Yeah, I mean, people kind of turn their nose up about out of the box. What the hell who cares about what the title to something? It's about using this terrible, horrible time in our lives. Use it as an excuse to have a revolution. Open your windows and throw half the stuff out. And mentally, let's readjust.
Yeah, we can't keep doing the same stuff, can we? You know, I mean, the customer's quite savvy these days. They're going to see straight through that. You know, it's all about change. It's all about basically, you know. And we always said that, you know, quite clearly, those leaders who basically embrace the change are going to be the winners, aren't they? You know, yeah, well, the change happened basically on the 24th of March, didn't it? Yeah, you know, if you're planning now in November, you know, you're too late. You know, if you're basically planning on basically opening up in March 2021 and put your plan in there, it's too late, isn't it?
Yeah,
so you got to do this.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of work within your life. I work with a number of people that were massive inspirations to me, and some of them weren't chefs and haven't got a bloody clue, like Jerry Robinson and Charles Allen from Granada, and then a guy called Gary Cook that said to me, JBS, I was trying to do a kind of imitation of him that kind of said, if you use the same method and the same ingredients and the same thinking, the end result is the same bloody thing. So change it. And that's, you know, or a guy called John Williams, who was my managing director. JBS, stop the bloody, you know, and it was a whole thing about vision. It's about all the little mice and the Pied Piper.
Yeah. It's about questioning, it's about basically change. Yeah. Let's go on. Simon's got a good question actually, saying, does John have a view on why there is a shortage of chefs coming into the industry? Let's talk about that, because that's an interesting. You know, we talked about this earlier, didn't we? You know, before we come on air. So, why is there a shortage? Why is the salaries? Just talk me through that.
There isn't a shortage now, but I would say if you go back before COVID, there was supposedly 25,000 vacancies within the industry. But there again, the problem probably isn't the number of chefs. The actual problem is within Manchester in the last 10 years, there's a 50% more eating establishments than what there were 10 years ago. So actually, the industry's expanded, but we haven't begun to kind of invest in the infrastructure or make it attractive enough, if that kind of makes sense. But my recent project working for a retail supermarket where we were kind of looking to mangle in, if I can put it this way, the supermarket industry has been looking at catering food service for a long time. They want to kind of mangle the retail supermarket mentality in with food service catering. So within the supermarket chain, we've launched a number of huge concepts. We opened in Manchester in August, and I don't know how many chefs must have applied, 500. And Edgbaston we opened yesterday, and we've got, and so the chef thing I think will kind of go away, if that kind of makes sense, regards the issues and the problems. All I would say is that certainly the chefs that were applying to work in supermarkets were very, very attracted, because it was a genuine 37.5 hours. And, you know, pound for pound, the whole working environment was, you know. So you could argue there's just been far too many catering establishments, which is probably why the whole thing got partly in a mess over the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and you mentioned there basically the supermarkets, and you know, obviously Edgbaston opened up yesterday with Market Kitchen, with obviously a well-known supermarket with Morrison's. Yeah, so just talk us through that. Just talk us through the concept of how that shift is actually made between, you know, from basically supermarket into kitchens. You know, how's that concept basically shifted?
Well, I've been working with those guys for about 2.5 years, and I was taken on board because my thinking is not retail supermarkets, and I'm quite happy to get involved with friendly conflict. Is that the correct? In other words, if I work for a client, you know, some of it is about getting your opinion. Some of it's about getting your opinion, your view over to try and help them. But their vision of looking at food service and catering and hospitality, and feeling that the part of that market they could enjoy, kind of went from a few ideas into building it, designing it, opening it, and it's now trading. So in Manchester Piccadilly, it's a very compact store, but underneath that store, we've got a full production kitchen underneath a supermarket full of chefs, you know, producing some really good food. That thinking process of you know, the customer not having to get involved with the tables and chairs, but able to make a chef design a product they're able to take home or eat in or stand or sit in the car or home delivery, has been taken another step forward, which is really interesting. It's good. Yeah. And we took lots and lots of chefs we've employed and looked to take on more, not because we want to start stealing them from the catering industry, because We want to give people jobs, and we want to keep cooking and managing as a real skill.
Okay, so basically the chefs there, quite clearly, we both grew up in kitchens. You more than me. And I went to management, but it's bloody hard graft, isn't it? And what we see on the TV and God knows what isn't what it is. We were talking earlier about you finish your shift and you eat your baked beans over a bloody trash can. So and all of a sudden you're offering chefs 37 hours at a supermarket. Cooking dishes they want to do. So what a great shift for a chef, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it goes back to the shift in the money. So people are still eating, they're just eating in a different way in a different part of it. So you can see that whole thing reinventing itself. What I would suggest, going back to my first piece, I think is that, you continue looking at home delivery and all the other aspects, or even vending, but not as you know it. View that as the basis of operating. Beware of going back to how it used to be, because I think you're in for a shock, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think basically vending as a vending machine, don't they? And the old, the old swirly bits, you've got a banquet kitchen behind you, quite clean, pushing through, flaps and God knows what. So it's about thinking about the market differently, isn't it?
Yeah, and Nigel, it's we'd probably save it up for another show, but in France, the manager and the chef thing is often the same person. It's only in the UK do you have managers that wear suits and have keys. Well, they don't have keys anymore. They have something else, lanyard. And then chefs are all the guys with all boys and girls with the jackets on. In France, it's actually, often you'll find that the seniors within a business or director, board level, used to do the running around, the chopping, the shredding. So in this country, some of the best managers I've seen, like yourself, have actually come from the grassroots of running around, understanding it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing better, is there? I mean, I'm quite different because basically I come from a chef background. Yeah, so when we start talking about food development and food food service, I speak from great depth and great experience. So it's great for me, when we talked about food costs and we talked about allergens and stuff like that, the new stuff. It's my skill set just shows through there, and basically then what you find, John, is basically you can have a grown-up conversation. Yeah, we get these managers, don't we? That basically I need a menu and off they go, and the chef does it all. So it's great in the experience. It's great having basically where you can talk from depth as well, from experience. So
yeah. You're right. So within the retail thing, I kind of had a vision to say, right, there's 13 allergens, or is there 14 or 15 or 12? And we're going to take half of them out now. So we opened up and we took half the allergens out, right? And then we're going to sign up that every single year we're going to take another 3 allergens out. Okay, so we're going to, you get what I would say to the catering restaurant industry, and I've been there with the jacket and the badge myself. The thing with allergens and with the whole thing about gluten-free, this ain't going to go away. One has got to embrace that. And if you're smart and clever, you'll make sure that your sauces are always gluten-free, and you'll make sure your soups are always veggie and gluten-free. And if you're clever and smart, you'll kind of alter and change. Certainly within the retail piece, we launched a whole range of really nice cakes that these guys make every single day fresh. The sales of those with coffee are just outrageous. They're very good products.
Yeah, there is a shift, isn't there? There's a massive shift. Let's get another question on. So I've done Simon. Yeah. What have you got here? Yeah. Value and quality both of product and service. Yeah, Roger says. Yeah. So what's your view on that? I mean, I know we touched on it. So the value and the quality, is that the same thing, John? Is that
yeah, I would say, from the research I've seen and done and places I visit, what was interesting was last year, actually customers, the number one thing to customers was service. Food was number 2. Very interesting that. And I think certainly from my work in Kuwait in the Middle East, where Ali, who we work together, she teaches them to smile, engage, teeth, welcome. She teaches them how to stand, how to walk, how to place, how to pull the chair out. So over there, services, it has to be great, or else it doesn't work. And in the UK, we've got to learn in a very nice way to be more subservient. That isn't natural to us. So I think that whole thing about products and service, You know, we're very chefy, aren't we? And we're every single TV program. And I know there's a couple of people had a go at service, you know, making the service staff and teams heroes. But I think that's really important that we do get service better. But value, what does the word value mean? You know, if it's 200 quid, but it's outrageously fantastic, is good, isn't it? And what does quality mean? Everybody has their own different take on that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we talk about the chefs, and we both got the same view. I mean, you know, you've done TV, as you know, with you know, Good Food Show and all that, you know. But it's getting back to, you know, it's going back to what we were talking about before, isn't it? It's good quality leadership. It's, you know, it's making sure that quite clearly that leadership shows through the service. Yeah, you know, we can always tell when we go to hotels about who is the manager that's running that particular hotel.
Yeah,
you know? And we don't even need to get through the front door. Yeah, for that customer journey, we already know who's actually bloody running the hotel. Yeah, you know, and what kind of, you know, we know the name, but we know the makeup of the person that basically is running it, just by basically what you put out there and basically how you present your product and give it value for money in the customer journey. So, you know, all the way through. Andrew says, never diss the competition. Yeah.
Well, good, very good point, Andrew. Totally get it. I went through 15 years of the competitors are always crap. They're always rubbish. Everything they do is rubbish. It's terrible. I hear this, blah, blah, rubbish. If you're smart and you're clever, you'll get under this, you know, though there's always something to learn from everywhere and all the rest of it. When I used to go out and eat in competitors, I used to slag them off. And actually, some of the products were very good. So that's about maturity and age, but that's a very good point.
Yeah. Didn't Jamie Oliver once ask you, who the bloody hell are you? Just talk us
I
through
did,
that.
I did the food show, and I was on after Jamie. On the same stage, and he walked in the kitchen and said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I have no idea who I am, but who the hell are you?" And like, you know, it's one of those, it wasn't about egos. Yeah. Who really are?
Yeah. That goes back to my Gary Rhodes story when I threw him out of Belfast. Yeah, that's another story. That's for another day. Yeah, you know, yeah, you know, those stories always come out, won't they? Let's just have a look down the line here. Yeah. I want to know who my competitor dentist is. Amazing. Yeah, I think I like that sort of.
No, a guy called Gary Hawkes that was one of the top people within Gardner Merchant that became Sodexo, and I did a dinner for him at the Black Swan at Helmsley, and he was giving his sales team an absolute beating, and he literally said, "I want to know who my so-and-so in competitor's dentist is." It's that important that we get under the skin of everybody, you know, and that's a really good point.
Yeah, so important, isn't it? You know, absolutely there. Let's go on to the next one. So, hi, John. Do you think there's a lack of quality with chefs, and could this be that fast food contract catering actually better hours, certainly at lower levels of salaries and better salaries? Haha, here we go. Yeah. Pin back your ears, guys. Here we go.
You can lack of quality of chefs. Wow. I do see some very good people in contract catering, and I do see the fact that people that a younger generation now you know, they how do I put this? The oldies or the generation gap, we would work 19, 20 hours a day, and we'd work 7 days. And if you had Christmas off, you were an absolute whatever. So in those days, it was about, you know, the pirates, and we are the, you know, we're the loony gang. It's a different world. It's a different place. People now expect the 37.5-hour week. I'm not saying, I mean, you know, and they want to eat. This business of two chefs sat underneath a wash-up eating cold baked beans out of a tin can, and, you know, the chef saying, "Ugh," whatever, or people not drinking for 8-10 hours, that's gone. It's finished. You know, there's an expectation of different rewards, and also kitchens. You know, I spent a lot of time walking around kitchens, looking at design and layouts and equipment. And unfortunately, in the UK, design generally within kitchens ain't great, and a lot of cheap stuff kind of goes on. When I go to the Middle East, they tend to, or even when I spent some time working in Munich, the quality of the corridor and the architraves and the door within the kitchen and the opening mechanism and how things, and the sink and the tap and the design and layout is very different to the UK. I think we need to kind of pull our socks up and make the environment. You know, I was talking to a hotel manager who had problems last year in recruiting in a big hotel. So when I went to meet him, I went through the bin area, and I went through the kind of the greasy backyard and went in the back of the kitchen and walked through it. And I could, with all due respect, I could smell it before I saw it. And then when I came out of meeting him, my hair stank of grease. and he's saying to me, I've got a problem recruiting. It's like, yeah. You know, what do you expect, really? You know, so I think the environment, the hours, the whole thing about staff care, it's important. It's changed.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we all grew up with that, didn't we? You know, and I know Roger I know Roger would basically, you know, be of that ilk as well. You know, he did exactly the same as we did. You know, 60, 70 hours a week. You know, you basically go out and get a few beers after service. You know, get yourself back to your mise en place, and you'll bin it. You go into lunch service, then into afternoon tea, and then basically into dinner service. Before you know it, you're out the kitchen at 2:00 in the morning. And you know, we grew up on that. Let's face it. You know, it's just that's the way it was. And you never used to question it. You know.
Yeah, and I think Roger's point about the lack of quality of chefs. When I go to Kuwait, it's one of the few places where I kind of get a chef's jacket on and an apron, which is quite novel. And I'm at a stage now where I don't really care what people think. I just kind of go in the kitchen, put a jacket on, and we've got 40 odd nationalities in Kuwait, and we have so many staff. Because labour out there appears quite cheap, but I put so much time and effort into the whisking, the figure of eight, how we do this, passing it through there, don't do it this way, put it over crushed ice. You know, I think we all need to put more time and effort into developing the chefs. But you know, there's a lot of brands and different concepts, and you've got, you know, apprenticeships and college, and you know, it's the world's changed.
Yeah. So certainly since our day, you know. JB, you okay for a few 15 minutes more? Because, you know, as predicted, you know, it's, yeah, okay, cool. Let's crack on then. Yeah. Okay. Julius says, Andrew Pickett said basically, Julius agrees some companies have just cut too deep. We're looking now instead of based some thought into the future.
Adrian, I like you. Yes. Yeah. I don't have anything to say. He's totally correct. End of story. Okay. Short-sighted, bash it around this week, tomorrow, and then start counting the pennies. God help them long term.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, short-sighted there, I should imagine on that one. Yeah. You know, Spain suffers because most GMs come from sales and not. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. They come from a sales background, basically not operations. Well, so then they stick them in F&B. How many times have we seen this, JB? Yeah.
I spent time working in Mallorca at Santa Ponza, and actually the manager we had there had come from a sales background, and all the management were from sales background. So I became the translator, not only of sign language, but also of physically, you know, this is, guys, let's be practical. And I think putting time and effort into people was difficult and tough. But probably, I think, the way stuff's gone, we're probably so grateful to see people. You know, who cares? You know, as long as we're all safe, let's take too many bookings, you know, if we're safe, I think. But I kind of get your point.
Yeah. Okay. Julia says, totally agree. You have to be smart with your menus on allergens. Yeah. It's not going to go away. Be creative and be clever. Julie comes from a health and safety background. She used to be a health and safety person. Right. Yeah, and that's company we work for. So, yeah.
I think it's really amusing, Julia, that we have food costings, but actually to get a costing, you need to have ingredients, but then they don't know what's in the food. So it's a mind shift. It is a mind shift. The great thing about I've learned or further learned from retail and supermarkets is that allergens and ingredients ain't optional. If you don't want to kind of comply with, understand allergens, or unfortunately, the future is going to be that a table of 6, 3 or 4 people are going to not want that or want that. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's the arena. That's the piece of grass and the goals and the people. That's the game. If you can't do it or don't want to do it, the customer ain't going to change because of you. You know, I hear a lot of quite worrying stuff, or used to the last couple of years, from chefs about, you know, gluten-free, or, you know, it's like, guys, just be smart, adapt. It's not easy, I get it, but there's another way of trying to skin it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the allergens things, going back to my recently my group MB days with Welcome Break. I mean, one of our biggest fears was, you know, throughout the restaurants is yes, getting the consistency, but also basically making sure, you know, those chefs, you know what chefs are like, you know, that little bit of extra ingredient because I don't agree with the spec, or, you know, it's non-optional, you know. You know, it has to be, you know, quite clearly. You know, let's face it, you know, if it goes wrong, yeah, like the Pret situation and stuff like that, you know, Natasha's law is going to come in shortly, you know, next year. So, you know, it's a non-negotiable, isn't it, for allergens?
Yeah, I mean, my wife's a very, very serious gluten-free. And if she has probably, well, obviously we've not been out to eat for ages, but if I go back in a couple of years, she used to get poisoned twice a week, and it was terrible. It was terrible the way that the things, my wife's gluten-free. Oh, we're so happy. What? My wife's gluten-free. Yes, well, make sure there's no potatoes. I mean, this was like, guys, please stop it. It's changed. Understand it, adapt with it, go with it, or do something else. Sorry, but
we know our legends, did we? We got no specs, but fine dining and all that. So so Roger's back with us and basically said service is paramount. I think we agree with that, don't we? Absolute paramount.
Give me some food that's all right, but smile and make me feel better. Because if you understand the history of hospitality and go back to the 200 years ago in France, they used to have these buildings, and the building you basically went into the building with money. You had a variety of services, of which some of those were sleeping and food. And as long as you left in a better mood than when you went in, the business existed and continued to exist. It's about making people feel great, and preempting what they're going to do and what they require. How many times can we have the horseradish sauce? You want horseradish? Right, chef, you want horseradish? Oh, please. I mean, there's a lot of that goes on. That's about education, isn't it? That's about care. That's about, keeping your customer. Really important.
Yeah. It is. I can hear you actually saying that across the pass. You know what I mean? So it's happy days. Let's move on. So basically, soon with immigration laws changing, will salaries rise to obtain from outside? Yeah, it's obviously talking about Brexit, EU, and all that. Yeah, coming up. Is it going to be a shift? What's your thoughts?
I don't really have any thoughts on that. I can't really comment. What I've seen over the last 4 or 5 months is salaries decreasing. Okay. People being paid less for whatever reason. Some of that I understand. Some of it worries me. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
In an indirect manner.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just move on. I mean, basically, it's not my specialist subject. I've got a view on it, but quite clearly, not for this platform, and quite clearly, let's move on. Yeah. JBS, you're a legend. Richard Clark says, JBS, you're a legend. Great news today. Great words, wise words. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. No, I unfortunately, I started losing blood, or it's what we call in Yorkshire weeing. And that night, I went to hospital, and they said to me, "There's something quite, wrong with you." And I didn't feel great, and I got diagnosed with cancer, unfortunately. And then they took a kidney out, and a few other bits. So every 3 months now, I go back for my CT scans. And then probably in 1987, before you were born, Nigel, I had a tumor inside my left-hand lung, this big. So I've kind of been through those wars a bit, if that makes sense. So, it's weird. 9:10 this morning, and I was waiting for the phone call from my consultant, and I was literally shaking, Nigel, because what is very obvious is that if the result was bad, you are talking about probably the future being very different to what it is now. Do you know what I mean? It put another dimension on what's important, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard.
And I'm glad you didn't tell me, JBS, because quite clear, I'd have felt awful this morning if the result had come back, you know what I mean? And, it was a different manner, but, let's, it's all good. So, it's, as you say, JBS, your legend, great words today. Thank you very much. So cool. Okay. Let's just run through some of these. How do you feel about reduced? Oh, here we go. How do you feel about reduced? And he actually means carts. He's put carts underneath. So how do you feel about reduced food offers? Yeah. Voucher.
Well, if you go back, well, Nick, who's a fantastic Greek gentleman, he's probably never been caught before. His country often will serve, food from, one establishment or one place will serve one dish. It's only in the UK do we decide we want to serve 20 dishes, 50 dishes, 90 dishes, on a menu, and then you end up with poor quality products. So I think reduced food offers on mobile carts is the way. But it needs to be a great product, doesn't it? You need to become famous for that one product and do it really well. And when you're doing the research and development into that one product from your cart, by the hoolies, you need to do it to death so you understand that and become the master of that particular style of food.
Okay. Let's go some more, because I'll whip through these, JBS. Yeah, so in Thailand, we're waiting for borders to reopen and pray that the vaccines approved really soon. We do not survive on domestic cities alone. So Thailand,
the whole thing about, I think, travel and tourism is bigger than a lot of us thought. I'm working on a project presently, which has made me really begin to think how important it is, if that kind of makes sense. But Thailand is an amazing country. What fantastic produce. And many years ago, I worked for Thaksin Shinawatra, who was the former Prime Minister of Thailand when he owned Manchester City for a year. So, I remember those days. I had no idea about Thai food. And when he used to ask me to cook it, I used to, in a very nice way, say, hey, listen, give it to someone who's an expert, because there's nothing worse than a Yorkshireman that's dressing up as a Mancunian attempting Thai food. You get found out, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. You should do Sexy Fish and the Three Bears. You know what I mean? You should go back to that story, but there you go. Yeah, that's another story. Let me just see what's on here. So better control. So it comes back to this one. Nightmare if chefs don't know what's on the menu. Worse if they still change the ingredients. Yeah, I think we covered that, haven't we, in allergens?
No, totally correct, Julia.
Yeah, Julia, absolutely right. For me to make a no-no, we've disciplined guys over the past, got rid of them. This one's quite a big one. So, hi, gents. Have you looked at the proposed points system for non-settled immigrant workers? If so, do you think the local labour market can fill the gap, assuming there is a market? Those establishments remain high. Adam Gain. So, yeah, we're talking basically there about the skills gap, aren't we? Non-settled immigrants. Not really my specialist subject. I don't know if it's yours, John, but have you got a view? Yeah.
No, I understand what's been said, Adam, but I think it's how we're going to pan out into the future and how that kind of works. I mean, I'm a real advocate. I bought a book called The Great Chefs of France hundreds of years ago, and I was lucky enough to go and work in one of the restaurants, which was a restaurant, L'Oasis, in Lanapole near Cannes. It had 3 stars for 25 years. And one of the chefs who was featured in the book, he would only take on apprentices. And every year, this individual would take on 10 apprentices, okay? And he would develop and develop and develop. So when I was at the Black Swan at Helmsley, we got rid of kitchen porters, and all the chefs used to do washing up 1 day a week, including myself. And every year I used to take on 4 YTS. And after 4 years, I had the most fantastic kitchen brigade. So I think growing your own skill set, I'm really keen on. And my brother Matthew, he's doing great wonders with the whole apprenticeship program. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But on the immigrant workers, I can't really make a comment on the proposed point system.
Yeah, probably same here. A couple more questions for you, JBS. Here's one for you. Yeah, okay. So what was your worst setback and how did you recover from it? So this is basically from Thomas, who we interviewed last week. So, what was that? How did you recover from it, sir?
I don't know how to start that one. Is that business? Is that life? Let's say it's life. My probably worst setback's been cancer on 2 occasions, but my kind of journey over the last 3 years is all down to my wife. She's been such an absolute rock, and she's the most prettiest, loveliest thing, but underneath there is a very determined woman who's kept me going when I just gave up once or twice. That makes sense. And the benefit, I'm going to say this weirdly, the benefit of cancer, if you've got the dark dog kind of depression bit, or if you're into worrying about COVID, actually it all pales in significance compared to the cancer thing. That is a really difficult thing that really pulls you all over the place.
Okay. And what about business? What about you're not going to go over that one lightly. What about business, JBS? Come on. What was your worst setback? How did you recover? You're not going to get away with it, son. Come on.
Probably the doubters that pop up every now and again, who I just completely flatten and get on with it. The worst setback, I don't know. Let me think on that one. Probably when I worked in Brighton and the new German head chef decided to serve a load of chicken completely raw to a wedding. I came on duty at whatever time it was, took over the service, and you can imagine that's for another day, Nigel.
I was going to say, come on, JBS. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Okay, I get it. Come on, chef. Okay, right. So, last question for me. Just before we wrap up, and it's, I'm sure the listeners basically, absolutely fascinating. So, yeah, table for four should be table for six, actually. Table for four, anybody, dead or alive, past or present, who would be there? What's the menu? What's for gloves? What's for entertainment?
Wow, okay. You're throwing that one at me now. So I'm going to
absolutely. You screwed me up earlier, so I'm going to screw you up.
Come on. I'm going to say Mark White. I'm going to say Barry Sheen. I'm going to say Gary Cook, and then my wife. If Marco's there, no matter how bad the food is, he'll say it's lovely because underneath that exterior is actually a gentleman. So the menu, I would probably go for something very simple, depending where we were. What's the glugs mean?
Drink. Glugs is drink.
I don't know. Yeah, because of my condition, I'm unable to drink, so I don't know about entertainment. I think candles, dark night, the warmth from the south of France on the back of your head, the convivial conversation. I think that's enough. And right, Nigel, and you as well.
Cheers, pal. Yeah,
in the background.
Listeners, I've been behaving myself today. People know that I swear as well, so quickly. But that'd be an interesting table, wouldn't it, with Marco and basically Barry Sheen, Ali, and yourself. Yeah. That'd be a great conversation, wouldn't it? And on that note, sir,
I was lucky enough about 15 years ago to be involved with a superbike racing team. Okay, I don't tell people this, and actually the rider I had was a little bit of a child, and he used to have dicky fits about situations. I'd say to him, right, we're on warm up, you're going to go out for 3 laps, don't overdo it, be careful, the tyres are warm, etc. And on the warm up, he'd bin it, roll it over, and it would cost us God knows how much. And actually then working with chefs and actually working in football with the players, there's actually a lot of similarities between leadership and youth and learning. Do you kind of follow that bit about players and controlling them and mentality, and the leadership thing is really important.
And on that note, basically, what's coming up on the show is basically talking about leadership. He's a guy, Paul Fletcher. He's basically going to come up on the show in 2 weeks' time. So he's going to talk about basically stadium. He's going to talk. He used to be my CEO basically when we opened up Rico Arena, and he was the ex commercial director at Wembley. Had a great football career. Talk about leadership. So, JBS, thank you for today, sir. Our usual 2-hour conversation. Thank you for not swearing. Appreciate it. I can now be on LinkedIn Live. I've lost my bet. Happy days. So guys, where you can catch this up, is we come in here every Tuesday. We talk different leaders, and JBS, we'll talk about basically getting you back because there's loads and loads of stuff we didn't talk about. We could go on for a 2-hour, 3-hour show. Obviously, it's on podcasts, after the show. So if you punch in basically, Hospitality Live, Hospitality Recovery, Nigel Mann, or basically Last Man Standing, you can catch it on there. JBS, sir, you've been an absolute legend as normal. Thank you very much for entertaining us and giving us some great tips on the industry and basically all the way through. JBS, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, guys.